Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smoking techs, electric smokers, feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you very much, guys. And folks, welcome to our show today. We've got some interesting guests lined up. And I don't know if we could call Mr. Weishuhn, Mr. Whitetail, a guest or not. He's part of this show. Larry, you've been with me. We've been together on Catfish Radio for 19 years now. So, you're as much part of this thing as anybody, as I am. But what I really want to talk about is you were hunting up on the Red River with an old friend of mine's on his land, Matthew Brown, and with some more other great friends, Paul Moore and his whole crew with Vineyard Max, and you shot one of them old mossy-horned Red River deer up there in far, far North Texas, and congratulations, buddy.
I really appreciate that, Luke, and I appreciate being with you all these many years and look forward to a whole bunch more. You're right. Before I tell the story, I got to acknowledge that DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy has been with us for a long time, actually since we started working together. And Hornady the same way, accurate, deadly, dependable. Of course, along the way, we picked up Stealth Vision, which is pretty much made, put together, and shipped out of Crockett, Texas. Vineyard Max, you just mentioned Paul Moore and Ricky Ballinger was up there with me as well, too. And then Kurt English is the third person involved in that. And I was there, had my Mossberg rifle with me with a special Aviant barrel. We'll talk about that one. It's an Aviant heat releasing barrel. We'll talk about that one somewhere down the way as well, too. And then, of course, I always carry my Taurus handguns as well, too. But you're right. I shot it at about as far north as what you can go north of Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas, more west of Fort Worth up there without being in Oklahoma.
I know.
I shot it not very far off probably within, if the state line is 100 yards, the state line is the center of the river. Oh my gosh, probably less than 100 yards from the Oklahoma border is where he came to horns. Actually, I'd been sitting in this one area for a while, and sometimes with old bucks, they run that river, and there's a little spot right there where I can sit and kind of watch some of the river bottom and watch some of the open fields right behind me. And this was back in middle part, about a couple of weeks ago, actually, when those bucks were still just actually, not quite, a little over a week ago, actually, when I think about it. They were still coming to horns. I had rattled up several bucks that morning, including some broken horn bucks. One of them had a complete antler broken off, and the other side had just kind of remnants of an antler. And frankly, had he had both antlers when he came in, I probably would have shot him because he would have been a really nice 10-point. But it's so deer, so very often here recently, there's been a whole lot of research that's surfaced about, deer being moving during only in the middle part of, not in the middle part of the day, but only in the early mornings, late in the afternoon. And I'll have to tell you, in about, 60 to 70 years of hunting, I've sure seen a lot of deer during the middle part of the day. Well, that's this buck particularly that I rattled up and was able to take. He was a 6-year-old deer. He weighed 187 pounds on the hoof, which is a nice, big old buck. Yeah. And I rattled him up at 12:03 in the middle part of the day. So, that midday hunting that a lot of people don't do is a shame for them, because if they hunted that mid part of the day, there's no telling what they might see.
I know it. Larry, I bet that buck pre rut before he went into the chasing, because they've been running up there. I know for a fact for a couple of 3 weeks.
Oh yeah,
he would have waited a little bit more, wouldn't he? Probably.
Look, a lot of times those mature bucks like that, like I said, this was a 6-year-old buck, and he was obviously very active. I could actually even smell this buck
Yeah.
before
Oh yeah.
he started coming in. I mean, had that strong musky deer the aroma, if you will.
Yes,
And when those bucks go in before they go into the rut, they can lose as much as 30% of their body weight. So, it doesn't. If you even took like 20%, you're talking about another 16 pounds. Well, that put that deer well over 200 pounds.
Yeah,
It's amazing to me how big some of those old deer are up there.
Yeah,
and of course, you mentioned Matthew Brown, and I've gotten to know Matthew thanks to you, and what a fount of knowledge about that country. I know he does a lot of stuff with birds and bird dogs, and he rodeoed for years. And he's from New Mexico and all those other kind of good things. But he was real good friends with our past friends, and so I'll tell you what, he was just a fountain of knowledge. Of course, he lives on the land, and he and I spent some time visiting. He said, well, here's where I've seen deer in the past, and, this is a good place to go, and this is a good place to go. And by golly, he nailed it.
Yeah.
He truly did.
Invaluable. Yeah, Matthew Brown, I kid him, we used to get him an old New Mexico cowboy, and you look up
Yes, sir.
New Mexico cowboy, his picture ought to be there. He spent a lifetime on horseback and working cattle and all that, and it's still his passion, if you talk to him much. But I met Matthew Brown. He had a S.M. Brown game bird ranch, and it's up in Montague County, not far from Nocona, is where the area we're talking about. And Matthew, I was introduced to him by the late Bob Hood, an old friend of both of ours. Bob passed away 10 years ago, I guess, maybe. But Bob and I'd go up there, and Matthew had a Mexican lady that cooked New Mexico style,
Yes.
And boy, man, she'd put those eggs on top of that salsa verde and tortillas, so that's how I got to know Matthew, and actually. Matthew and I were both pallbearers at our friend Bob Hood's funeral years ago, and we've had a lot of good times. Matt's also a very, very knowledgeable bird dog guy. He had some of the best pointers and setters that I've ever hunted over. So, okay, and then now who would have thunk it? There you are up there, and one of my other best friends in the world hunting with an old buddy of mine. So that's the way it comes full circle right there. I like to see that.
It really does. I had great time up there. Of course, I'm in on a lease and on his property, and that's really the first time that he has leased that country to any kind of hunting. And in the past they've just almost done exclusively bird hunting. I know that Bob went up there several times, and occasionally he would kill a deer, and then Ray Sasser. And it was also mentioned when we were talking.
Yeah.
I was there at his house before I left. I took him a little bit of venison from that deer that I shot, and invited me in. And he very proudly on the wall had newspaper, framed from both Ray and Bob, and talking about his bird hunting operation. But that area up into there, we're so blessed in Texas particularly, and I know that people beyond our borders hear this on our the podcast that you do with this. But that area is very similar in terms of deer to parts of Oklahoma, obviously, because those deer go back and forth across the river right there, and some of those deer, there have been native deer there for a long time, and then like some of that country over in the Hagerman area, which is back east of there quite a way. But even there, a lot of those deer were brought in from the King Ranch and a few other places many, many years ago. I think there might have been a few introduced from Kansas, but primarily they came from the King Ranch. And with those few native deer that were there, and those deer that are there, what's there now is just, given an opportunity to get in those 5 and 6 year old age classes, just obviously they grow big antlers. And this buck was a basic 9-point. He would have had a 10th point, but part of it was broken off, and had like 24-inch main beam, and he was 20-inch outside, and he had really good mass, and just an absolutely gorgeous buck. And the fact that he came into rattling horns makes him even that much more special as far as I'm concerned. And to take him right during the middle part of the day, to me, even now as we're here, and for those who are listening to us on the radio, that early December, I talked to friends of mine that hunt North Texas and West. Of course, I'll be out in Western Texas, but I've rattled up bucks as late as that week before Christmas as well too. So if you're up there and any part of that country, don't be afraid to take those rattling horns out with you and hit the horns together every once in a while. And don't be afraid to hunt pretty much all day either. If you've got that opportunity, a lot of times, to me, from my research of 70 years of hunting, says that sometimes those older mature bucks move during the middle part of the day when you really don't see a whole lot of other deer moving.
Right. Larry, did this buck come storming in, or how did he, when you first saw him, how did he come in?
This buck came in pretty much storming in. He ran in and looked, and then he turned around to go away, and I let him walk just a little bit, and I started grunting at him, and he stopped and turned and came back toward me, and that's when I was able to take him. Of course, hunting in those kind of situations like that, just to my south, it was wide open, and then I was right on the edge of the fence line going to into the river bottom, and those edges of the fence lines, if you will, got a lot of briar and a lot of other vegetation. So thankfully I was using a 7mm PRC, and that rifle that I shoot with that Aviant heat releasing rapid heat releasing barrel is again topped with a stealth vision scope, is unbelievably accurate. So it allowed me to put that Hornady ELDX 175 grain bullet through about a 2-inch window that I could see, of the deer. And so, yeah, it came in. The others that came in, I had those. They'll be able to see some of those bucks on Sportsman's Life.
Yeah.
Because I had those bucks within less than 5 steps of me.
That's amazing. And we're about out of time, they're telling me, Larry, for our segment here. But I will mention the TV show that we do every week with our buddy Jeff Rice. It's called A Sportsman's Life. You can watch it for free. You don't have to subscribe to anything. It's on YouTube. Just search out A Sportsman's Life. But it's also on Carbon TV. That's where most people watch it. And you can go there to carbontv.com and watch it. So looking forward to that one, Larry. And thanks again for being with us. And, and again, congratulations on that nice buck. We're still hunting, so I know a lot of our friends are still out after deer. It's time to start watching those food plots now, I think, don't you?
It is that time, and I'll be on the cotton ranch here before too very long, so we'll catch up there around the campfire a little bit more.
You bet. Folks, I want to introduce you to Vineyard Max. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weishuhn, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, Vineyard Max has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Smoking Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time. I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultramatic feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultramatic feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder, and then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on actually on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultramatic feeders, you could go online to ultramaticfeeders.com. Well, friends, a lot of hunting talk in our show today, but striper fishing, winter striper fishing at Lake Texoma is one of my favorite things to do, and I always break away from the hunting stand to get up there and catch some of those stripers with my buddy Bill Carey, Chris Carey, all the good guys out there with Striper Express. So it's time for a Lake Texoma striper update from Mr. Bill Carey. Good morning to you, Bill.
Well, good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in Radio Land.
I hope Mr. Carey's doing good this morning. I know that this is, what do you call December? Your second most favorite month, is that right?
Yes, sir. We call it Remember December. It is something else. I call it the best of both size of fish and numbers.
Yes, sir. You know what I like about December also? Well, the fish are biting. The schooling fish are going on. That's so much fun to use the binoculars and locate those schools of fish and get under them and hammer them. But the weather conditions, people think about December. Well, yeah, we have some cold days in December, some inclement weather sometimes. But my gosh, it seems to me, Bill, that Decembers are not as I can remember when. I mean, every day it was freezing, but climate change, whatever we want to call it, Decembers are more mild than they used to be, I think.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. I you know how I figured it out? I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I was looking at pictures to send to you and to whoever.
Yeah.
And I noticed we weren't dressed up like Nanook of the North.
Yeah.
And I went, look at there. We're dressed like in fall instead of ski suits, long johns, and everything.
Yeah.
Now, I tell people when I talk about Remember December, I said, we'll have a couple in Texas. We call them northers.
Yep.
That's a weather system that comes down from up north. And I said, we'll have a couple, but nothing like we're used to. Overall, there's no doubt, it's getting warmer. So it just makes December a great time. Kids get out Christmas break, and parents bring them up. We've got people that come every year now just for this.
It's a good, there was a time when you could not tear me out of the woods in this time of the year. I was all about hunting, and I still am. I hunt a lot. For an old guy, I spend a lot of time out hunting. But I learned, I don't know, years ago, you better, if you like to fish, and especially striper fish up at Texoma, you better tear away, and you better get up there and enjoy some of it in December. And, Bill, I've been watching the Facebook. You guys, Striper Express, y'all are all over Facebook, social media, and I've been looking at the pictures. Some schooling fish is, as a rule from years past, this time of year is a good time to come up there and just catch a bunch of, good-sized fish. But y'all have been catching some big stripers under the birds, haven't you?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I tell people it's the best of both worlds. It's the peak of the fall, even though we know winter starts in December. But it's the peak of the fall because when you start pulling 10-pound fish under birds, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And
we get to where we just release them right in the water, reach down there and grab that jig and let them go because you got so many in the box.
Yeah,
you're done. I mean, I've got a saying. And I know fishermen only lie when their lips are moving, but it can be so good. You got to be here to believe it. You just got to be here. Had some boys one time. They said they pulled out of the marina, and there was a group of birds right there, and they had a south north wind that pushed them over towards Buncombe Creek across the lake. And he said they drifted that. The school stayed with them for 4 hours and never started the motor until they hit the Oklahoma bank. And they caught just so many, you just can't believe it. And I had to write an article about it. I said, golly, never start your motor and just drift with them the whole time. That's a pretty good story.
It is. I remember, I guess a couple of years ago, we were actually, Larry Weishuhn and Jeff Rice, we were out there having fun with you and Chris, and also filming one of the A Sportsman's Life, one of the TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we got out, there's a shelf out there out from Mill Creek, and deeper water, and then a shelf. And the wind was blowing up on that shelf, submerged shelf I'm talking about, folks, you know. And the birds and the stripers, I bet we weren't a half a mile out. And why run across the lake when they're right there, you know? I mean,
I know it.
And, well, one other thing now, while I'm thinking about it, the thumper of, and people are saying, what is old Luke talking about? But soon, when the weather gets cold, and the thumper, folks, there's all kind of thumper. Bobo's thumper, I'm not sure that Jeff Bobo didn't come up with this idea, but people used to thump the bottom of their boats with like a walking stick with a rubber tip on it, or stomp it. I've seen, you know, and that most definitely attracts fish, schooling type.
Amazing.
It is. Well, that's probably working right now. But I've been up there with y'all and put the thumper going, and there's a motorized thumper. It's a rubber mallet that it's in a box, and it just thump. It hits the bottom of the boat and sends those sound waves down. That turns the stripers on. If you don't believe it, friends, you just need to be there and witness it. But it happened. You can actually watch the graph and see these fish pull in under the boat. Who knows what a fish thinks? But there's something to do with that thumping sound and food. I think it's calling them in. Who knows? Maybe they just think, what's going on? Maybe that's some shad down there, whatever. But that does work. So it's getting to be a prime time for thumping, isn't it, Bill? You know?
Yeah, it won't be long.
Yeah.
By the end of this month.
Right.
Well, Captain Dave, who works for me, he does dead sticking.
Yeah.
And he starts before any of us. He starts in December. And that's where that thumper. And folks, what Luke's talking about is just amazing. I guess these fish, no, I don't guess. We know that they are curious creatures, and they're schooling fish.
Yeah.
I've had an old crazy saying for years that if there's two stripers sitting there and neither one of them was hungry, and a minnow shad swam by and one moved on it, the other one would too, just because they're that curious and that aggressive feeders. So that's how you get those multiple hookups when they're under those birds. And what's going on there, folks, is the fish find bait balls and they push the bait to the surface. And once it gets to the surface, they can run, but they can't hide. And the birds spot those sparkles in the water. And the birds come in and dip the bait. We just cast our jigs, and you'll have multiple hookups. You know, fish on. I've got pictures of 5 fish on at a time. Just crazy.
It is. And stripers are different. Well, they're an ocean fish. You know, they spawn up in the northeast in the rivers, and that's one of their mainstays where people fish for them. But those things, they're so aggressive. A lot of times you'll hook one many times, and this can be summer or winter, and you've got him coming in, and you fight him in, and when you get him to the boat, it's not at all uncommon to see 2 or 3 others right on his tail. You know,
that's right.
So you don't see that when you're catfishing or bass fishing very often, or crappie fishing, but stripers are so aggressive that
I've been there many times with that net, and that customer, after we get the net and the fish in the net in the boat, he goes, "Did you see the one that came up behind it?" It's always bigger and just kind of like coming in there, just looking so curious. What's he got that I ain't got?
It's amazing. So dead sticking, which is that's going to happen in a few weeks, the end of this month in January and February. I know that. Well, that's when you guys start dead sticking. So right now, I'm going to guess it's jigs, the top bait, right?
Yeah, mostly flukes. Their metabolism slows down, so the sassy shad paddle tail makes a little bit too much vibration. So we use a fork tail or a straight tail fluke. And we use bass tackle, folks, with just a heavier jig head. in this water right now, we'll use 3/4 to 1 ounce. And we'll put that 4 or 5 inch fluke tail with a straight tail, less vibration, and that's what they want.
Yeah. Well, you the way you present the bait, Bill, talk about that. I mean, you can be cast and let it sink and slow roll, or what's the?
Yep. Well, you know, I just tell people, I say, okay, you know, our guides fish with the customers too to tell them exactly how to do it. So I say, don't throw it over the moon because we're drifting at a pretty good clip.
Mm-hmm.
Just get it out there. You can even do it as short as, say, 15, 20 feet, and then let it fall.
Mm-hmm.
Count to 5 is probably the most average. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Cock your handle, and if you don't have one then, just start a medium retrieve. Now, you and I were raised to shake a jig, and we do that. Just it's habit. I remember one time I put 7 fish in the box before my customer caught one. He said, Bill, you told me to just make a steady retrieve. He said, but I noticed that you're vigorously shaking it. And I grabbed my wrist with my other hand, and I stopped it. And I started reeling again, and the fish hit it. I said, it's just an old habit you can't break.
I know.
Shaking a jig. But no, just a good retrieve, and they find it, and they nail it, and the fight is on.
It's a good habit, too. We're about out of time for this segment, but, Bill, I fished close to my house. I have a friend that has about a 5 or 6 acre clear water spring-fed gravel pit. It's got a lot of bass in it. The biggest bass I've ever caught out of it might have weighed 3 pounds, not an honest 3 pounds, but a lot of 1.5 pound bass. Well, I've got a big old oversized rattle trap. I don't know. I guess it's a 1 ounce, and that's the go-to bait. And you can see down in that water. Now these are bass; they're not stripers. But I fish there. I'll go check my deer feeder or whatever. Then I'll take my rod. I'll go out and I'll say I'm gonna catch 3 bass, you know, or whatever, you know. But I've noticed when you're talking about shaking that jig, I've noticed running that rattle trap when you jerk it, pull it up through the water column and let it stop and just twitch it and then pull it. Most of the strikes come on the paws. That's the truth.
That's right.
And it's the same. Right. It's the same with stripers. Bill, folks can find Striper Express anywhere. StriperExpress.com. You can just search it. Hey, do I hear Captain Call the Crow?
You do. You do.
I was afraid he wouldn't make a surface on us today, folks. Captain Call is a wild crow that comes in to be on the radio with me and Bill when we're here. Bill, what's a number folks could call you?
They can call us at 903-786-4477. That is 903-786-4477.
Thank you, Bill. We'll get you back real soon. Let you keep everybody tuned in. How about it?
Remember December.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smoking Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smoking Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokingtex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. For seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too.
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, folks, we have a lot of hog hunters and coyote hunters in the mix that listen to our show every week. Mr. Shane Kessler is a pro staffer with ATN Corporation. ATN makes some of the finest thermal and digital scopes for night hunting around. They're the ones that I use. I thought it'd be fun educational, I should say, and fun to talk to Shane a little bit. Shane, thanks for being with us, buddy.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, Mr. Luke. Hope you're doing good today.
Yes, sir. I'm doing just fine. I used the ATN X-Sight, which is a digital scope, to shoot some fat venison for the freezer last week, close to home. It's perfectly a lot of people in Texas even are not aware, but it's perfectly legal to use digital or any kind of scope during legal hunting hours. And that's 30 minutes after sunset. So, I use that. Of course, I shot this one. I actually was able to film, Shane, through the scope.
Oh, yeah.
Film the shot. And it's in color when in a daylight period. And it's really cool. It's a show now. I'd like to invite you and all of our guests. We do a weekly show. Larry Weishuhn and I and a guy, Jeff Rice, do a Sportsman's Life. But if you get time, go to YouTube or Carbon TVs, where most people watch it. It's called A Sportsman's Life, and you can see that filmed through the ATN X-Sight. I thought it was pretty dang exciting to do that, But, Shane, let's talk about the difference in digital night vision. Talk about what it is compared to thermal. So tell us about digital. The one that ATN that I use is, and you too, I think, it's called the X-Sight. And so what's some advantages, disadvantages? Kind of describe digital, if you would.
So the digital night vision, it's actually using a digital image. You're basically looking at a tiny computer inside of a scope housing, right? And it does enhance in low light conditions. It does enhance your visibility, but it's a device that does require a external IR light once the sun goes down. And I know there's a lot of guys that a lot of times in pigs, they'll show up to the feeders, right after you get down from deer hunting. And for some guys, it's a good choice because they can gun hunt with it during the day, and then when the sun goes down, the pigs show up, so then they can do some eradication on those pigs as well. But the digital night vision is wonderful, especially when you're dealing with young hunters, new shooters. Because you record a shot, you can go back, and I've done it before. In Louisiana, unfortunately we can't use it for deer, but shooting pigs during the day or coyotes, you can record the shot like you were talking about earlier, and go back and you can review it, or if you want to share it. But what I like about it is the fact that there are times where I've shot pigs or coyotes, and you probably encounter the same thing. You go down there, you get to look, and you're like, man, I can't find any blood. I don't even think I hit the darn thing. You go back and review the footage, and you realize, well, I'm 40, 50 yards short or farther than where I need to be looking. And young hunters. I mean, I'm 55, and I'm sure you've taken your fair share of new shooters out to take a deer or a hog, and you're trying to coach them in. Okay, you know exactly where you're aiming. And the scopes have the ability to stream to a device like an iPad or a phone. So you can look at it and know exactly where they're shooting at. That they have the crosshairs where they need to be. So there's a lot of advantages to using that a day-night scope, or a digital night vision scope.
It is.
Especially well, even with the thermal device. If you're running a thermal, the thermals can still live stream. But if you're trying to be target specific, especially during the day, the day-night scope really has its advantages.
It does. And I think it's only fair to bring out one of the things that the digital scope is not good for. And if you ever use one just a little bit in the heavy cover at night, you'll get it.
Exactly right.
The refraction off the light, off the IR. In other words, say you've got a hog out there at 60 yards, and you're in some heavy brush, and there's a lot of leaves, say. Well, and you're trying to spot that hog, that light's going to refract off those leaves and your sight picture is not going to be clear. I mean, that's
100%.
That's a
it's
fact.
Like shining a spotlight at a stop sign.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
exactly.
You're going to have that light refracting back, and it's going to distort your image of what you're actually trying to see.
Yes.
And then that's where a thermal scope, is really shines.
That's it.
Because you can look through that cover and see that animal that's in that grass or that brush.
The heat signature. But that is a deal with now I used a digital scope probably 2 or 3 years before I ever had a thermal scope mounted on my rifle. So I knew what it could do and I knew what it couldn't do. But what it can do, say that's all you've got. Say you have an X sight, which is a really good scope. I've got one mounted on a Tex Rex, a 51 caliber air rifle that I shot the doe with last week. If you're hunting over a feeder, say, well, you're going to probably have a clear line of sight from wherever you might just be sitting in a chair against a tree, or you may be in a blind or whatever. It's going to be dark, so that tricks a lot of people up. They say, you mean you just set out in the open? I said, look, it's dark. I mean, you don't need a box blind to be sitting unless it's raining or something. But anyway, you're going to have a line of sight from the baited area to where you are, right? So the digital scope is just fine. He's not going to be in heavy brush. So that situation, they're really good. I mean, and you do need. Here's a tip that I've learned the hard way. I used at first when I started using a digital night scope, I thought usually a Picatinny rail is how you mount the IR, external IR. I thought you just screwed it on there and you're ready to go. Not necessarily so. You need to adjust that light beam, the IR beam, don't you?
You're exactly right, and that's a common thing we encounter when we're talking to certain people. Like, well, I can't see the image. Well, have you adjusted the IR light to the scope? Well, no, not really sure what you mean.
Yeah.
And then once you talk them through it, and like, oh man, okay, I see it now. I mean, it's not something where you just turn it on and and that IR beam just floods the world with light. I mean, you've got to line up the beam with the optic, which is really easy to do.
Oh yeah.
It takes just a minute or two, and you got it dialed right in how you need it to be.
I leave mine on. It's probably not the best policy, but. Shane, I leave mine where you can move it a little bit if you want to. I mean, it's because
there are some great mounts out there too that have like I'm not sure what the nomenclature is on it, but some type of a gimbal axis built onto the mount to where your base is stable, but with a certain amount of force you can roll it up or down, left or right, and it'll stay in that position even through recoil.
That's the one I've got too. So so digital night vision for clear line of sight, or if you're on a field and you're shooting, if you've got an open line of sight between your target and you, it's ideal. I mean, it works great. Now we're going to come back in just a bit, and we're going to talk about thermal. But back in the day, when I first started, had the opportunity, I didn't own a thermal. Back then, I'm talking about years back, thermal was extremely expensive. I mean, for an average guy like me, it was out of the ballpark price. But now, thermal is affordable. I mean, I don't. You can rat hole a few bucks every month, and you can get you a serviceable thermal scope right now. And ATN makes some great ones because I'm using them. I've learned because you've been using these for years, and and I never want to trick anybody up, Shane. When I'm not a thermal expert, I'm really not, but I've hunted with them a great deal. But the ATN, even the digital, the one shot zero, and I'm not saying one shot and you're always good, but one shot will get you real close.
It'll get you so close, and then you can fine tune it from there.
That's right.
It's very easy to do.
And we'll get into that maybe in just a bit when we talk about
Sure.
the thermal. So, tell you what, let's take a little quick break, and then we're going to come back and let you talk about thermals, and you've got years of experience using these, and I can even learn a thing or two. How about that, Shane? That be okay
Sure, that
with
sounds
you?
great.
All right,
Yes,
folks,
sir.
hang with us. We'll be right back. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramid Air. The website is PYRAMYD, pyramidair.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember pyramidair.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. Kubi's Wild Game Processing and Kubi's Restaurant in Dallas, and Vineyard Max, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Folks, I want to introduce you to some good friends of mine at Dash for Cash Pawn Shop in Seagoville, Texas, located at 133 Hall Street. The phone number is 972-287-3121. Go by there and talk with Gary or Randy, the owner. They're great people. They've got some great prices. Again, that's the Dash for Cash Pawn Shop, Seagoville, Texas, 972-287-3121. Well, friends, we are back with Mr. Shane Kessler, and we're going to talk about thermal scopes, and you're going to learn some things probably, and I know that I am. Shane, thanks for talking about digital. Now let's shift over to the Cadillac of night vision, to the thermal scopes. It's literally night and day difference, and we mentioned that thermal is now affordable. Of course, I'm using the ATN, the LTV, the Thor LTV.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the scope I'd ever need. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's a lot, man. A lot of guys say the same thing. You know, that there are a lot of tech guys out there that like having all the bells and whistles. And then there's gentlemen like yourself that want to just power it on, select the color palette, a reticle, and go.
Bang, yeah. That's a good way to put it. You can buy one of these roughly, retail for about what, I don't know, $1,600.
Yeah, and of course your costs will go up depending on the model.
Yeah.
You can go all the way up to the Thor 5 XD with a built-in laser rangefinder, a 1280 resolution, and of course you're getting in, over $5,000 at that point,
Yeah.
And for some serious hardcore guys, that may be what they want to go for. And then of course you got the guys that are, they may go once a month or once every few months, and the LTV is a great choice, and it's very budget friendly.
Yeah, mine is what, 320, I believe it is, right?
Yes, sir.
320. And then the lesser one is 256. Is that right?
Yeah, and those work great. Now you wouldn't want to go to and try and hunt a big peanut farm or a big hayfield, something like that. Those are really good for 150 yards, for 200 yards. People that are hunting kind of close quarters, as I'd say.
I've never used the ATN 256. I haven't, but I love the 320, and that's the one that people ask me about. that I use. I said, look, I don't have the 620.
You got you got a 640,
640
and then the 1280.
I said, and most guys that I hunt with, they're shooting hogs. No, honestly, most of them no further than 125 yards max.
Yeah, I mean, typically when you're shooting pigs, even here in Louisiana, we try and get as close as we can to them.
That's the fun part. Yeah.
Yeah. See how close you can get to them in the dark before you bust them.
Yeah.
And that 256 or that 320 is, man, that fits the bill for a lot of people.
It does. So the 320, folks, gives you a very good, clear picture. Not the picture that one would cost $5,000, but up to 125 yards. You
can identify your target. You know what you're shooting at.
Yeah.
It does great.
You can see a deer. I've looked at turkeys roosting in trees with mine at 100 yards, and they kind of look weird. A turkey does.
They do, don't they?
It look like a prehistoric something,
Yeah.
But
we've noticed that ourselves when we're out riding around looking.
You see turkeys through it. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
looking.
you're like, what the heck is that in the trees over there? You get to look, and it's like, oh, it's turkeys.
Right. It's funny.
Yeah.
But the thing about thermal, folks, anything with a heat signature. I guess that's a good way to put it, Shane.
Yeah.
With a heat signature from a mouse to an owl. I've been setting out with my thermal, and it's so peaceful out there. I hunt over corn usually,
right.
and you'll be sitting out there. I sit in a swivel chair a lot in the back of my pickup, mind you, and watching a corn feeder. You might hear a little ruffle in the leaves. Look up, and there'll be a barred owl sitting there. 30. You become a night predator. You can see what's going on at night. So now here's something I don't know about. So the one that I use, the LTV, the Thor, it doesn't have your built-in range finder. I mean, it doesn't have
all the bells and whistles.
No, it doesn't. But it's got everything I need. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
For about, I don't know, 1,600, whatever. That's
You can get the LT model, or you get the LTV that records. Some people don't care about recording.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of guys. They're like, I don't care about it. I don't need that recording on there, until they're like, man, I wish I could have recorded.
I know. I can't wait to I'm old school. I take mine and plug the thing into a card reader and put it in my computer and look at all the pictures. But no, it's good. Now, what I don't know about is the 256. Now, the 256 is probably, you could buy those for less than $1,000.
Yeah, they'll be significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
But again, you're sacrificing resolution.
But
not. Some people, they may not be shooting 50 to 100 yards.
That's right. If here's what I tell people. They say, well, how about the 256? It's maybe $600 or $800 cheaper. And I say, yeah. And if all you're going to do is sit in a blind or in a chair or whatever and look at a feeder and shoot hogs at 50, 75 yards, it'll do it. It will work. But chances are, once you get into thermal, you might want to get out there and do a little calling for coyotes or whatever at night.
Yeah.
And that's not going to do it. I mean, if it's 100 yards out there, it's not going to do the job that one at 320. So I just a lot of people have no earthly idea about thermal. They think, I've got friends that that are old school, never hunted with thermal. They think, I'm going to have to outlie, it's going to cost me $3,000 or $4,000. It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. That's right. It's, ATM makes a wide range of thermals that are just about for every budget.
Yes.
That you could think of.
They do.
And what I like about it is it allows just really anybody can afford to get out and extend their hunting time. Like me, I'm a hunting fanatic. That's all I think about is hunting.
Me too.
And then whenever I started getting into the night hunting game, I was like, man, I can hunt all the time now.
Yeah.
And it especially when you're hunting with a group of guys, you're hunting with them all night. It's kind of like being in a duck blind. You can crack on each other all during the day while you're in the duck blind, and you can just carry that over at night, and pick on each other about their shooting, like you would do in a duck blind. But One of the drawbacks I would say to shooting thermal versus a digital day-night scope is one of your biggest things you're going to find is judging distance.
Yes.
But again, ATNs come out, we've got built-in laser rangefinders. When we first started, there were plenty of times we're like, oh man, those pigs, they're not but 100 yards away or less, and then once you get, before we had the built-in laser rangefinders, then you find out, well, gosh, they were still 200 yards away,
Yeah, exactly.
And then the fact that you can upload ballistic data into these scopes now, and it makes all the corrections for you. So where you just range it and the scope does the calculation and you shoot and you're on mark,
That's not, that's not me. I've got a buddy that is a serious AR shooter. I mean, that's him. I was telling him about the Thor, what is it, Thor 5 there's one coming out, a new one.
The Thor 6s are coming out.
Yeah. The Thor 5, I guess the Thor 5 that is.
The Thor 5s are out now.
Yeah. I was telling him about that, and he's very savvy, technical dude. He says, I've got to get a hold of one of these. He said, I can put in the Hornady exact bullet that I'm shooting.
Yes.
And I can sight it at 100 or whatever, and all I have to do is just put it on there out to reasonable ranges. But,
it works really great. As long as you put in your ballistic data, your right, your coefficients, and man, it is. I've taken we went to Canada. I went up there and helped some guys with we're talking about the Excite 4, which is no longer out, but the 5 will do the same thing. And we had guys shooting steel targets at 800 yards at, they're like, I've never shot this far in my life.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's pretty amazing. Well, Shane, thank you for, I know that the subjects, the answers that you've given will help some people,
and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you bet. I'm here to wave the flag for ATN because I'm using them. Last week I shot a doe, and I'm after these hogs right now. I've got a buddy that on a small scale is doing what you're doing within 25 miles of downtown Dallas. I live
really?
Yeah, I live 30 miles from Dallas. He's a fishing guide. And he knows nothing. Lead Slinger's Guide Service. Brandon Sargent is his name. So he knows nothing about thermals, or didn't. But I'm kind of teaching him, and I'm loaning him. Loaning him the Excite to get started. But we've got hogs right on the East Fork of the Trinity River coming in every night. So it's going to help him out, and it's going to help the landscape out because they'll take some hogs off off those river bottoms that are plaguing the farmers down there. But it's a good thing. So folks can learn more about ATN. Just Google it, right? ATN.
Yep. ATNcorp.com. Yep.
Well, thanks a lot. I hope to get you down here with us.
I'm looking forward to it.
A place called the Becker Bottoms, and we're going to wear some hogs out this winter. So appreciate you being with us. We'll get you back before long and talk some more night hunting. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game, lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring.